How's everybody doing? I know you guys have been here a long day. Maybe stand up, shake it out for those who have been here, please. We'll keep this informal. Would love for you to interrupt me at any point. But recognize and appreciate the desire to be in a room like this, the desire to learn and engage in a space that is cutting edge, offers a lot of opportunities for many of us, but is incredibly undefined. And to me, all of your willingness to be here is a true testament to the way in which you and your organizations are thinking about it, and certainly the way we're approaching this space with the MBA, which is really in a test and learn environment. And certainly part of that comes from what the space is and what it isn't. I think definitions, I happen to be a recovering attorney, so don't hold that against me, but I think definitions matter. I think the way in which we think matters and frames up our thought process. And to me, too often right now, when you ask somebody about what Web3 is, what is its opportunities, people immediately jump towards NFTs. And that has come to define the space, and for some really good reasons. Certainly at the peak in 2021, we were talking about a $25 billion opportunity that existed in the marketplace. And now as we think about what has happened since, NFT trading volume down 97% year to date. We just saw the largest NFT marketplace lay off 20% of their staff members. And we're now seeing the sort of maybe inevitable market correction that we would have expected in an industry that got really hot very quickly. And all of us have benefited from that rise. It has certainly brought a new vernacular into the marketplace, given us opportunities to have conversations we would not have had otherwise. And so there's a lot of gratitude that I have for all of the ingenuity that has happened in the traditional NFT marketplace, but I also think we're at a seminal moment right now. A moment where we need to take a step back and think about what the opportunity is and what it isn't. And certainly at the MBA, we've been involved in Web3 and the Metaverse for a number of years now. When we think about the opportunity, we immediately run towards something like NBA 2K, where you can create your likeness, you can shop, you can play, you can engage with an entire audience with your friends across multiple paradigms and platforms in both the physical and digital worlds. And that to me is the first place we go. We also, of course, got very famous quickly for NBA Top Shot in the NFT space, which sort of led much of that. At one point, we did $225 million in sales volume in a month. Through NBA Top Shot, $45 million in sales in a day with 80,000 unique buyers. An incredible opportunity and a platform we really believe in and believe has a long staying power. And the reason why is because they're not willing to be defined by what they are today and what they're not. And so often what we have found in that space is our sole focus is on how do we make things really easy for the user. And I think that was the reason why Top Shot became the market leader so quickly. But ultimately, there's a lot of people at the NBA working in this space, and a lot of them much smarter than I am. And when they are involved, they're involved in NBA Top Shot, and they're certainly involved in what we're doing in 2K and what we do at So Rare. But I'm not here to talk to you about any of those things. Because for me, I think about Web3 as something completely different. That bottom photo, that photo of the pink slip you get when you get your car. That is what I am obsessed with for Web3. That's what I think about. What is Web3? The opportunity to solve that problem. Every day right now, I have this pink slip that sits in my nightstand table. And if there's something happens to that slip, apparently I no longer own my car. How crazy is that? Has anyone tried to buy a house recently? The amount of paper you sign that you have no idea what any of it reads, it's paper after paper after paper, these antiquated possibilities. That to me is what Web3 is. Web3 is the promise of a solution to those traditional problems we all face. It has nothing to do with gaming and videos and engagement. I think it's that. And that's the way that I have my team think about it. So ultimately, we have a couple rules when we come up with ideas or thoughts about how we're going to approach this burgeoning space. The first is that the best leaders I've ever met in my life are able to take complex problems and simplify them for their audience. That's it. If I can't understand it within 3 sentences, we're done. We're not talking about it. If I can't grasp it and I'm not cool, I'm not fun, I don't play video games, so I'm not maybe the target audience for some of the newer stuff. But if I can't understand it, then we can't really approach it and tackle it. And I think the second thing is that we have a fundamental thinking about what Web 2 offered us. And to me, Web 2 created a drastic change in consumer behavior. And that change is that it's a fundamentally irrational choice for any of us to now get off our couch. Think about that. That's what Web 2 did to the world. It's an irrational decision to ever leave your couch. You can work out from home. I can get all the food I've ever wanted delivered to me. Right? I can work from there. I never have to leave. And it sped up in the pandemic. And I think that's what happened to Web 2 is that change that had been going on for years sped up so quickly because of an external force that it reached its apex. And to me, that's the change. And because of that, the entire way I think about our business and we think about our business has dramatically changed. We are now hyper-focused on personalization and customization. How do we push price elasticity? How can we cultivate exclusivity? To me, there's nothing more luxurious in life than exclusivity. I only want what you don't have. It's a truism. And so that's the way in which we have to be thinking about our environment in Web 2. And what Web 3, to me, it does two things. One, it is going to solve traditional problems that we have in our lives. And we have to start with what is the problem we're trying to solve. And that, two, it does offer a level of immersion and engagement we've yet to start to scratch the surface for. And so I want to talk about some of the ways in which we've thought about this space and how that's led to some traditional problems. So we start with this idea of what are we trying to solve? And why is potentially a technology that is currently available in this Web3 context, how is it able to help us solve that problem? That's where we start. What is the problem? And so we've identified 3 problems that we think we're focused on right now, and we've started to scratch the surface of solutions, and I kind of want to walk you through them. One is that it's really expensive to operate right now. Much of what we do and bring things to real life in the global events business is challenging, especially as the world is opening back up. I just spent the last 2 weeks in Tokyo and Abu Dhabi bringing preseason games back around the world, and it's expensive to operate. And so we think about that's a problem we're interested in thinking about how do we solve. 2, we've looked at the ticketing world and the traditional ways in which you get access into special events and think there's got to be a better way. There has to be a way in which we can engage at a higher level than we're currently doing. And then certainly, we're interested in the sports collectible space, but for a nuance that I'd love to talk to you guys about as we think about these problems. So when we start with the first one, how we've thought about transitioning a traditional cost center. So for me, one of the big cost centers that I have in my budget every year is around decor and signage. I have this physical aversion to street pole banners. I think they're the worst thing ever created. They cost like $1 million, and you put them up around to the site, and they literally do nothing for you. And like every time somebody's like, oh, we should get the street pole banners. And I have a meltdown. And when I think about this problem of this cost center, it's a couple of things. One, it's expensive to create a temporary home in all parts of our lives. It's expensive to make something feel like home. And so for us, we spend 7 figures as we travel around the world, going to cities and trying to make that city feel like the home of the NBA for that period of time. And we've thought a lot about, well, how could we do that more efficiently and more effectively? And so one of the ideas that we had, and it came to me, I was having a conversation with somebody who was buying a couch from me. And I was asking him what he does for a living, and he was talking about that he works at an NFT company, and automatically my eyes rolled back. I'm like, another person working for an NFT company. And so I thought, well, wait, what do you do, and why is it different? And so we started to talk about this idea of what cities are and what they're not. And to me, a city's nothing more than an art gallery. When I walk the city streets, I look up. I almost get hit by a car all the time in New York City. Because I look up, I see things, billboards, somebody catches my eye. And so we thought, what if our cities were art galleries? And instead, if all of that signage was just pieces of art telling a story. And so we thought, well, then how would you monetize that? Well, how do art galleries monetize it? They offer the purchaser an opportunity to see something and buy it. You like it, it speaks to you, you can have it. And so from that idea, we came up with a platform we identified multiple spots around the city of Cleveland this year at All-Star, each of them telling a story about the history of All-Stars in the state of Ohio, starting with the 1966 court out of Ridgefield, Ohio. And we told that story where each art piece told a piece of that story in and around the city, and you'd have to walk the city to learn that entire story. But if you saw it, you could buy it. We had a QR code scanned. It led to a Shopify commerce page. People were able to buy it right there. They could buy a digital collectible for $20.22, playing off the year. And then they could buy a physical replica where within one push, they would have it actually mailed to their house. A piece of wood replicating that court that they fell in love with, mailed it home for $750. And the results were pretty special for us. Because what we were able to do is we sold out 80% of our inventory over a 4-day event. That signage up for 4 days, we were able to then take portion of that money and deliver it back into the city as part of our COVID relief efforts, ensuring that, again, we added to the story of how an art gallery taking pride in your city could do good. And maybe most importantly for my budget is now I wiped away a cost center. I achieved creating the feeling I wanted, which is when you arrived in that city, it had to feel like the home of the NBA. But I did one step further. You can now own it. And I think that's the idea of how do you take sort of a traditional problem and think about what solutions are now available to you that weren't available prior. Is it revolutionary? Absolutely not. But it's a step. Do I think it's where we can be in the next version of this? No. But I think it's a start of rethinking how we're approaching these traditional challenges we've all faced across our businesses and what the opportunity that this new environment is going to offer. We had a similar challenge around the tickets and seats, and we run something at NBA All-Star where we're fortunate we've got fans from around the world who travel to attend this, and we don't traditionally have enough inventory to satisfy all of those needs. But one of the things that I always struggled with was that we weren't able to tell who were my 10 best fans. I've always thought that that was crazy. In a building, I should be able to know who those people are. And I should be able to ask them, what do they want and why do they want it and how do I deliver it to them at all times? And so as we thought about that, we started to identify ways in which we could amplify the package, the experience, and offer them something more than we currently were available. Where there's limitations when you're with mobile tickets and physical tickets, because I don't have those tickets available for 2 All-Stars from now, right? And I thought a lot about it, what the NFL has done with seat licenses. If anybody here is a season ticket holder at the NFL spends a lot of time on seat licenses. You have to pay for the privilege to buy tickets. What a boondoggle, right? But amazing, right? What a great business where you've got to pay for just the right to buy tickets. And so we thought about this new space and what technologies were currently available. And so we identified this opportunity where we launched the first ever auction with Dapper Labs. We created 31 one-of-one digital collectibles, something that nobody else could offer, each one with either the team's brand or the NBA brand on it. And we created a unique package of rights. Those rights include everything from the ability to sit in Zoom meetings to plan the following year's All-Star. They can join dinners with executives as we think about what creating our messaging is going to look like. When they get on site, they get back-of-house tours. They get access to the court with a legend. They're going to be able to be in the locker room. They get access to merchandise that nobody else can receive. And they get tickets to the next 5 years, something I could not do under the old environment. So we thought about packaging these exclusive rights, and we were saying, wow, we now have this opportunity to create super fans. Let's see who buys these. We dropped one every night for 30 straight days. Each one was at auction for a week, and the results were incredible. The average purchase went for $60,000. So in 30 days, we had basically $1.5 million of brand new revenue to the NBA on this test. And maybe most importantly, we curated a rewards program. We found our best global fans. The interesting part about it is I actually, to this day, don't know who they are, because these rights are able to be freely transferred until January 1st of this upcoming year. So you can buy and sell. Each time you buy and sell, the NBA also takes a little piece. But every time you do that, up until January 1st, then the rights are frozen. At that moment, I get to meet the 30 super fans that are going to be the first people who are able to activate this suite of rights. And then we get to start to engage with those people and introduce them to an NBA fandom that nobody has ever received before. And what's so interesting to me about this opportunity and what could come next is who starts to engage. We were able to join a Discord channel and start to see the chatter between bids as each of these bids happened. And they, of course, like any good auction, it's the last hour that matters. As people started going back and forth, and we were finding friends who were pooling together their money so that 5 friends each could go to one All-Star. We also found the crypto whales around the world who were saying, wow, I'm going to buy it for 60 and flip it for 120 because I think they're going to pick LA next. Crazy stuff that I was like, maybe you know something I don't know. I don't know where we're going, but I know we're going to Salt Lake City. We didn't even announce where the other 3 cities are going to be. And I've got people on a Discord channel telling me, I bet it's Miami and LA. Like, I hope so. And that's the opportunity, again, of this curated environment that we're really excited. And we took this traditional challenge of, we want to offer our consumers, our fans, more, and we're limited by the current ticketing technology. We couldn't deliver tickets we hadn't yet created. And so we had to deliver and create something else. And that's where something like this became so exciting for us. And again, offered opportunities that we hadn't seen before. So you'd see right here, this was the auction page where it started to identify these suites of rights that owners would start to get, what each collectible looked like, bound in each team's creative. So there was only one of one. You would never own another one. We'll make sure that all of the merch, the meet and greets that you have, are connected to the team that you bought. So we're able to now curate this one fan who has something that nobody else on earth can claim he or she has. And we started to show, what the opportunities were. Hervé, you'd like it. Boston, the top bid, $67,500. I believe it was you. I'll be introducing myself to you on January 1st. But if not, you may need to buy it from somebody else. You've got a couple months. I'll help. We'll crowdsource it. So these are some of the results. And again, that January 1st date be so exciting for us every year because we get to meet new superfans. And I'm also incredibly curious to know whether when we announce new locations, does the price rise or fall? Even though the amount of years of rights are ahead, I could see certain locations being announced where even though you don't get access to that many more years of All-Star, the actual rights get higher than the original purchaser. And I think that's really interesting as we think about this space. The third opportunity that I'd love to think about is this sort of seat collectible, sports collectible opportunities that we certainly engage a lot in. We want to be able to give our fans a number of opportunities. And we thought about the ticketing space again, because again, it's such a premium point of access. It's something really personable. I have something that you don't have, and it's tied to a particular location in a venue. There's multiple tranches of scarcity that a ticket represent that are really exciting to us. But one of the things that we wanted to be able to do was see in the arena if we could identify the people who would just do more within their ticket, and how would that engage? Where would that fall along seat lines? Is it that the corporate crowd sits courtside in the first couple of rows and you literally couldn't offer them anything because the basketball game's just basically background noise to them? Right? Is our best fans sitting up in the top 10 rows of the stadium, and we've got to interact with those fans, and we've got to find new ways to deliver a more premium experience. And so what we did was we offered the opportunity for digital collectibles tied to your ticketing but not without an additional step. And that additional step was you had to take an action in the arena that we wanted you to take. And we tested it over our NBA Summer League. And the great part about Summer League for us is it's basically 10 days of Groundhog's Day. You wake up, you put on your polo, you go to the gym, and you do the same thing over and over again, and you mix in like an Aria steak. That's NBA Summer League for many of us. And so what that offered, though, is an opportunity that all of those 10 days we could test whether the action we requested of our fans was different. And so we ran 5 separate tests, and then we repeated those tests to see how the results applied over the second test and whether there was some consistency. So we did things like we asked people to arrive at certain parts of the concourse in between games. We asked people to purchase things. We had people sign up with a kid for a clinic and wanted to see if there was something that would drive. And with each of those, you earned a collectible that you were then immediately able to trade. And so we were giving you a revenue source meant for some of our fans. It was actually more valuable than the ticket they had purchased. But what was important to me was the action we could now take to decipher why and what motivates our fans. That was the problem we were identifying, and it was the opportunities that existed to date were, let's do another survey, right? Let's send out another NPS survey at the end of our event to figure out what our fans are interested in and what they're not interested in. Oh wait, the innovation, let's do a pulse survey and let's send it right away. And I just thought there had to be some other better way to engage with our fans to figure out what they want to do and what they were willing to do. Because it's very different to me to find out what a fan says they're willing to do, but what their actions are willing to do. And so this married those two things. Big announcement that said you could earn something of value, but you needed to take an action. And there were many fans in the arena who were like, that ain't big enough, boy. Like, you better raise the stakes. You want me out of this seat right now? Give me something more. And I think that's incredibly valuable to us as we think about our fans, our consumers, and how to motivate them. And we also, so as we thought about this, just the results, it was only a purchase price that we made our fans do of $5. Most of them were able to flip it for considerably more than that immediately. Each of them sold out every single day. That's an interesting part of how we were thinking about this test. And again, it was just pushing people towards an action and seeing how quickly we can get them to take that action. The last one I'd love to talk about in this world is from one of our partner teams, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who we were launching All-Star with this year, in part because we're finding that so many of us are focused on collecting and identifying opportunities that maybe have outsourced market value, but we haven't figured out yet is fully the ways in which to display them, right? The way to be able to show what it is that you just bought. For many of us in here, we used to carry around a big book full of baseball cards or basketball cards, right? And that was our way, and you couldn't really display them unless somebody came over your house. Then, my dad tells the story, well, he used to like to put his baseball cards in his bicycle spoke. And that's he would drive around. I've thought about that a lot. What a great way to display your cards. Ruin your cards. But what an incredible way to display you had them, right? Because my book sat in my house. I brought it nowhere. No one ever saw what I had. And we've thought a lot about, well, how do you help your fans show what they possess? And so we thought, and we were spending a lot of time with Mike Conley, who's the CTO of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who in my opinion is one of the very smartest people in this industry thinking about this space. And Mike had this idea of, well, our players showcase off their gear in lockers. Why wouldn't our fans do the same? And so what he did was he created with Suite a digital locker, and that locker is the place where you can house all of your collectibles. And all of a sudden now, what we saw from our fans during the weekend was the minute they knew there was a place to show their collectible, all of a sudden the collectible became more valuable. How interesting is that? That something had the same value today as yesterday, but it didn't because I could now show I owned it. And you think about all of the things that happens in our lives, and of course that makes sense. How many of us, have car collections? I live in New York City, I don't even own a car, but we have car collections. the value of the collection, in large part, is my ability to be able to go to events to showcase it off. And that's why this burgeoning event business has really taken off, is that there's pride of ownership. And we had not thought about that traditional problem in the NFT space and in the collectible space. And I think where Mike landed on something so very simple. Everybody understands what a locker is. Everybody understands you could fill it. And so, of course, you could fill it with digital in the same way you could fill it with physical. And I think that was the simplicity of the thought that I really loved his solution and why I wanted to make sure I shared it with the group today. So I know I only have a couple minutes left, but I'm happy to answer any questions on any of this.
Yeah, we have some questions that came in via Slido, and a couple of them are about the cost of those initial NFTs seemed to be very expensive and for people that had a lot of money. Any thoughts on how to engage the super fans who don't have a lot of money and allow them access to exclusive product?
Yes, certainly. I think we started in the premium space because we were focused on the one of one, but the concept around offering our fans an opportunity to be able to differentiate and personalize their experience can ladder up and down the product ladder. And so I think we could have just as traditionally created a suite of rights that were less pricey, less exclusive, but would have met and been excited and met for our average fan. We just built a business called NBA Experiences, where we took an equity position in a company. And as part of that business, we're delivering the most premium experiences that you can have for an NBA fan that you couldn't get but for your fandom to the NBA in that time and moment. And that's really different. So things like we were offering our fans the opportunity to serve as stand-ins for our NBA All-Stars, where they sit on the stage, they have the pyro going off, they were having somebody announce their names, and they stand up there with a sign and they pretend to be LeBron James. Pretty cool. Now, the great part for me is I used to pay somebody. I used to have to pay a PA to go do that. And now people pay me a lot of money to take on that same experience. But in that product ladder, we have experience that costs $50,000, but we also have experiences that cost $212. And that experience would have access to our fan event, a meet and greet with particular legends, a bespoke piece of merchandise, and access to a ticket to a hospitality event that they couldn't have gotten otherwise. People want to know that you're seeing and hearing them. They don't need to know that it's the best thing on earth, but they want to know that they're being seen and heard. And I don't think that differs just based on price.
Oh, great. How about this one? How much does the league control and create of these initiatives versus the teams?
Yeah, when it comes from, we look at ourselves and look at Logo Man. I think that's the differentiation and one of the exciting parts about the NBA. I don't know how many of you saw Rob Lowe get roasted on Twitter recently for rocking the shield and a hat. Did anybody see that? He was just wearing a league hat. And traditionally, nobody's fans of leagues. You're fans of teams, right? What I think the NBA, though, has permission, and this is what I think why I love working here, why I'm so excited about the future of our brand, is that Logo Man means something for us. And it means something for our fans. It's cool to rock Logo Man. I rock it on my suit right now, and Ron in the back has been trying to steal that pin for 3.5 years, right? Because it's cool. It's cool to rock Logo Man. And that, I think, is what's different. And for us, those initiatives then are allowed to be operated from the league. So all of the things that I introduced you today are league-run initiatives, with the exception of that locker at the end, which was a partnership as we were launching it during All-Star Weekend with the Cavs. But the Cavs were doing that because they run an arena. The rest are all league initiatives, NBA Top Shot, et cetera. We run a big business, but we focus not only on the collective of the 30 IP of our teams, but maybe most importantly on creating a direct fan-first relationship with Logo Man. And what does that mean? In the same way I think our WNBA teams have done with that orange hoodie. For those who have seen and how that went viral, where it's now cool to be a fan of the W. And I think that's what's exciting about the opportunity.
All right, this one came in anonymously, so I don't know how you're going to facilitate this. Maybe it sounds like maybe back by the dumpsters after, but someone has 10 Summer League NFTs from last year's Summer League, Bowl NFTs. Are you interested in trading some of your Top Shot cards with them?
So I would love to, however, our legal department has advised me that I am no longer allowed to own NBA Top Shot, as it is a commodity with value. And so I no longer own NBA Top Shot officially.
All right. Well, that was some great insight. Thank you so much. We will look forward to hearing more from him as things roll out.